Hi everyone, it's Karen here, and today I'm going to show you how to make a mini art journal cover. Well, actually it's an A6 book cover. So what I'm using is stone paper, and stone paper is 100% tree-free, and it is actually made out of crushed up rocks. It's a very smooth type of product, and you can do all sorts of things with it. It's very awesome. So right now what I've done is I've traced out my template and I've cut it out with my stone paper. And I'm just making sure that my little book will actually fit inside, which it does. So that's good. Okay, so I'm using some Stamperia rice paper, and this one is a dragonfly. So what I'm going to do is I'm starting out by ripping the paper into the pieces that I want to put on my cover. And the easiest way to do that is with a wet brush, as you just saw, and then by making it wet makes it easier to rip. But you can just rip it normally if you wanted to, but I do find using the paintbrush will allow me to get a much better tear, more precise tear if there's a particular piece that I'm after. So here I'm just tearing off the very straight edges of my rice paper, because we don't want any straight edges when we actually glue the things down, because you can actually see them when it's finished. So I'm just, putting bits here and there and making sure I've got enough gaps and enough pieces to cover my actual piece of stone paper. So it doesn't really matter where I've had them because they're all going to move. So now I've got my Stamperia mixed media glue, and I've put that onto my stone paper, and then I've put my rice paper on, and then I'm painting it over the top and smoothing it out. And the easiest way to do that is to start in the middle and work your way out so that you don't end up with any bubbles. So just continuing on until I get all my pieces put on, and of course they've all changed position, which is a bit funny, but that's just what happens. There's no right or wrong with this type of thing. You just go for it and see what happens. And yeah, you might have a bit of an idea in your head of how you want things to be, but it turns out completely different. So I'm just filling in some of the larger gaps here with the rice paper, and I'm pretty happy with that. Just cleaning up my mat with the excess glue. So now I'm heating it up just to dry it off. Now when you're heating it, you do need to be careful. I am using a Wagner heat gun, which is quite a powerful one. So you just need to make sure that you move the heat around so that it's not concentrated into the one spot. So now I've got some Prima paint, and I'm going to paint in around the white pieces and the rice paper, just making sure that I don't have a really defined paint edge, that it is quite a smooth transition from the rice paper to the paint. And I've got a few different colours there, and they are the Prima paints. So there's a couple of sparks colours in there, and this one's a metallic blue, which is really pretty. I will list all the products and everything that I have used on my blog, so you can see them there. And I'll also put in links directly into Bev's Cross Crafts in Tassie, where you can actually get the stuff, get all the goodies if you want to. So again, just cleaning up my mat, and we'll just get that bit there dry. So again, just being really careful as I'm drying it so that I don't keep the heat all in the one spot. That looks pretty cool, hey? So now I'm going to do some stamping. So I've got some Stamperia stamps, and I'm just randomly popping a bit of the stamped image here and there. So I'm not inking the full stamp, and I'm not putting ink on my stamp each time. Excuse my head. So now just giving it a quick dry, just make sure that that paint is completely dry before I get on to the next part, which is spraying. So I'm using a Stamperia aqua colour, and that first colour is leather, and this one is an iridescent violet, which is really pretty. And I kind of thought I had a little bit too much there, so I've just dabbed it off with a bit of paper towel. And that last one is actually a Dilution shimmer spray in London Blue, which is really, really pretty. So I'm just drying that off again being careful not to keep my heat in the one spot so that I don't end up melting my stone paper, because it will melt and warp. So just drying it, getting those little blobs there dry. Now I'm just trimming up the edges where I've got a little bit of an overlap with the rice paper. So just tidying up those little bits that were hanging off the edge. Okay, cleaning my mat again. I like to clean my mat. Keeps things nice and tidy. Okay, what's the next thing we do? Oh yes, I'm going to add in some artisan powder. Now artisan powder is actually from Prima, and you can do all sorts of different things with it, but today I'm just mixing it in with a little bit of water and making a bit of a paste so that I can kind of distress a little bit around my edges of where my book is going to fold into. And then I'm going to go for some brown, but you'll not see this bit on camera because the my phone died halfway through. But anyway, the next part is going to paint the middle. And that's what I did. I just painted the middle with a bit of the blue metallic Prima paint, and now I've just dried it off again. And that's a little bit more of the Dilution shimmer spray. You don't need to do that because it is inside, but I decided to because, you know, I can and it's pretty. So I'm just drying it off again now, making sure I get all those drips dry, and again moving my heat gun around so that I'm not concentrating the heat into the one spot, because as I said, it will melt. So we do need to be careful when we are using our highly powerful heat guns. If you are lucky enough to have a low voltage one from Ranger, they are heaps better for this particular stone paper. That is looking really awesome. Okay, so now I've got another Prima paint. This one is called Ginger Magic, and it's actually a sparks, so it's quite translucent. So I'm just rubbing it on with my fingers. You can use a paintbrush, of course, but I just used my fingers today because I felt like it. So just gently rubbing it in and on, and what will happen is it will stick to the parts of the rice paper that are a little bit raised and some of the paint, and just help bring out some of the details. So you can't quite see it because my camera is a little bit high, but when I show you that at the end, it does actually look really cool. So that's that bit. So we just got to wait for that bit there to dry. So again, just giving it a quick little blast, getting it going. Okay, yep, that looks pretty cool. So pretty happy with that so far. Whoop, I missed a bit there when I was trimming it up. Okay, so the next thing is I've got some Snug Hug seam binding here, and I'm actually going to colour it myself with some Distress ink. So I've got Dusty Concord, Faded Jeans, and I think it's Mermaid Lagoon. Anyway, I'll list them all later, as I said. So I've just popped them onto my craft mat and wet them and dropped my ribbon in and swirled my ribbon around. And it's a little bit blue, so I'm going to add in a bit more purple just to add a bit more colour to it. Clean up that bit, and then I'm just going to dry it off with my heat gun. Now, of course, because this is a dye ink, it's not actually waterproof, so if it does get wet, you know, the colour will run, unfortunately. So you probably could set it with some salt or, you know, dye rotation, whatever it's called, things that you can get in the supermarket. So anyway, it'll be fine. I don't plan on dropping mine in the water. So now we're going to put on our Stamperia heavy gloss gel, and I'm actually putting it on with a palette knife, and I'm only going to put it onto my dragonfly wings. And what this does, it looks quite cloudy at the moment, but when it dries, it dries very clear, so it's very, translucent, and it will actually stay in the shape that you've put it in. So it's not like, say, like, dimensional magic or whatever. It's not going to flatten out. So if you've got a raised part where you've spread it out, it will actually stay like that until it dries, which is really cool. Another thing that I have done in the past with my paste is you can change the colour of it. So if you wanted to add in some artisan powders to make it blue or pink or whatever, then you can. And you can also add in some glitter and things like that as well, which is really quite pretty too. But today I've just left mine plain because I thought that would look pretty good on this little book, which has a lot of stuff going on with it. So I'm just smoothing it out and getting it where I want to, and where I don't have it and I've actually got some, I'm just scraping it off with my palette knife, just getting it into the right shape that I want. So, and now I'm going to do the butterfly, just up there in the top corner. I don't think I put as much on the top as this one, as the dragonfly, sorry. So, yeah, so just smoothing that out. So the thing with the heavy gloss gel is that it will take quite a long time to dry. So I've done this at late yesterday afternoon. So I'm actually going to leave that overnight to dry fully, and then I'll continue on in the morning. So cleaning up my knife, make sure I've got the paste where I want it to be in the nice shape and everything, and have it clearly defined, the wings and where the folds are. I've tried to not put as much gel because they will be folded in. Normally I probably wouldn't have put gel on those bits, but anyway. So here it is dry. Doesn't it look cool? So now all I'm doing is folding in my edges and making them a nice defined straight edge, and I'm just using my metal ruler to help me to do that. So I'll fold them up. Now I did notice that the Dilutions ink did rub off a little bit, so what you might want to do is spray it with a workable fixative just to help seal that colour in, which I did actually do off camera because I was ending up with very blue hands. Okay, so now what I've done is I've added my very strong Ranger red double-sided tape to the edges so I can slip in my book. And the idea is that when the book is finished, I can take it out and I can add in another one. So I'm just popping on the tape on those little bits where it's going to be folded in. So this red tape is really quite strong, and it will very nicely hold the stone paper in place. So I'm just making sure my edges are nice and straight. There we go. That looks pretty cool. Okay, so now for my ribbon, I'm just tying it around through the middle. You don't have to have a ribbon if you don't want to, but I did because I thought it would look very pretty. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So here it is, close up finish. Thank you for watching, guys. Bye.